The room expected a breakdown, apologies, maybe even tears. Instead, she reached into her bag with the calm precision of someone who had already calculated the outcome. One key, then another, then another. Metal touched glass. Soft, deliberate, rhythmic. 12 times. No one understood what they were watching. Not yet, because those weren't just keys. They were access points, control layers, silent permissions buried deep inside systems no one else fully mapped. The CEO crossed his arms, satisfied. A clean dismissal, publiczne uniesienie, neatly packaged as authority. But she didn't look at him. She looked at the table and placed the last key down, like a period at the end of a sentence no one else had read. 6 minutes later, in a different room, a screen lit up with numbers no one was ready to see. And everything changed. The conference room had that sterile, expensive silence. Glass walls, polished table, filtered light that made everything look controlled. Predictable. Safe, until it wasn't. She stood at the far end, not defensive, not aggressive, just still. That kind of stillness that unsettles people more than any argument ever could. Around her, faces blurred into a single expectation. She's about to break. She didn't. The CEO adjusted his cufflinks, a subtle gesture he used when he believed the outcome was already secured. His voice, when it came, was measured, almost rehearsed. Return all company property. A pause. Just enough to signal finality. Eyes shifted to her. HR leaned forward slightly, already preparing documentation. Someone near the wall lowered their gaze, as if avoiding collateral discomfort. Then she moved. No hesitation, no speech, no resistance. Her hand slipped into her bag and came out with the first key, a small matte black fob. It touched the glass table with a quiet, controlled click. Someone exhaled, then the second. A longer key, mechanical, old school, unexpected. Click. By the fourth, people started exchanging glances. Not confusion yet, just a faint disruption in the script they thought they were watching. By the sixth, the CFO's posture changed. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but he recognized patterns for a living, and this didn't feel procedural anymore. By the eighth, the room felt smaller. The CEO frowned, just slightly. Not concern, irritation. This was taking longer than it should. It wasn't supposed to linger. "Make it quick," he added, tone tightening. She didn't respond. The ninth key hit the table. Click. Now even HR stopped writing. Because those weren't random items. Each key was different, labeled, coded, or worn in ways that told a story no one had been paying attention to. Until now. The 10th key. The 11th. By then, no one was pretending this was routine anymore. The CFO leaned forward, eyes narrowing, mentally reconstructing access hierarchies, facility permissions, system redundancies. Something didn't add up. Something felt distributed. The 12th key landed last. Softer than the others. Final. She aligned them with quiet precision. Not scattered, not careless. Arranged, like components of a system. Then she closed her bag. Only then did she look up. Not at the CEO, at the room. There was no anger in her expression, no urgency, just a calm clarity that made people instinctively uncomfortable, as if they had just realized they were late to understanding something critical. The CEO cleared his throat. "Is that everything?" A simple question, but for the first time, it didn't sound like control. She held his gaze for exactly 1 second, then answered, "Yes." No elaboration, no defense. Just that. Across the table, the CFO's phone vibrated. He glanced down. Habit, not concern. At first, then his expression changed. Not dramatically, not visibly enough for everyone, but enough, because the subject line wasn't routine. Facility exposure, priority level red. He tapped it open. Numbers. Access logs, cross-referenced systems. His eyes moved faster, then slower. then stopped. The room hadn't caught up yet, but it would. Very soon. The CFO didn't speak immediately. That alone shifted the air. He was the kind of executive who translated chaos into sentences. Fast, precise, unemotional. Silence wasn't his default. It was a signal. His eyes stayed on the screen. Scrolling, stopping, cross-checking, a second notification stacked on top of the first, then a third. Different systems. Same pattern. He inhaled once, sharply. Wait. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The CEO turned, irritation already forming. What now? No answer, because the CFO was no longer in the room. Mentally, he was inside the architecture, walking through access trees, facility permissions, legacy overrides, and finding doors that shouldn't exist. Or worse, doors that had no documented owner. He looked up, straight at her. You handled infrastructure access? He asked, tone stripped of everything but function. She didn't rush the response. Part of it. Not denial, not confirmation, precision. That's when it clicked for him. Not fully, but enough. He stood up, chair legs scraped against the floor, sharp and wrong in that controlled space. We need to pause this. The CEO's expression hardened. We're not pausing anything. She's terminated. The CFO didn't even look at him. That's not the issue. Now the room shifted. Fully, because that sentence, that's not the issue, reframed everything. HR froze mid-note. Someone near the glass wall stepped back without realizing it. The CFO turned his phone, placing it flat on the table. Not toward the CEO, toward the center, toward everyone. Numbers, red markers, facility IDs, a list of dependencies that looked less like structure and more like a map no one had ever fully seen. 6 primary facilities, he said quietly, 2 secondary, and at least 4 overlapping access layers that aren't in the current compliance registry. The CEO scoffed, quick, dismissive. Then IT fixes it, that's what they're for. No, the CFO replied. Flat, immediate, they don't. A pause, not dramatic, structural, because now everyone felt it, the ground shifting under something they had assumed was solid. The CEO's voice sharpened. Explain. The CFO tapped the screen once. Access authority chains back to a non-departmental role. Another tap. Manual overrides, legacy permissions, unregistered redundancy paths. He looked up again. At her. You built this? The question wasn't accusation, it was assessment. She tilted her head slightly. Maintained it. That was worse. Much worse, because maintenance meant continuity, control, intimate knowledge of how things fail and how they keep running anyway. The CEO stepped forward now, impatience turning into something tighter. Just revoke it, he said. Disable access, reassign credentials, move on. The CFO didn't respond immediately. Instead, he zoomed in on one section, then another, then he exhaled. You don't understand, he said quietly. That got everyone's attention, because he never used that tone with the CEO. Revoke what? He continued. There's no single control point, no master key. This isn't centralized. His finger hovered over the screen. It's distributed. A word that landed heavier than it should have. The CEO frowned. So, the CFO said, finally looking at him directly. If this breaks, it doesn't fail clean. Silence. Not the earlier kind, not polite, not passive. This one had weight. The kind that fills space and makes people suddenly aware of every small movement, every breath. The CEO's gaze flicked, briefly, to the table, to the keys. 12 of them, neatly aligned. For the first time, they didn't look symbolic. They looked operational. He turned back to her. What did you do? Direct, controlled. But no longer confident. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stepped forward, not aggressively, not slowly. just enough to close the distance between her and the table. Her fingers hovered over the keys, not touching, just near. "I returned company property," she said. "Exactly as instructed. No more, no less." Across the room, another notification hit the CFO's phone. He didn't want to look, but he did. His eyes scanned it once, then again, and this time there was no ambiguity left. He spoke without looking up. "Exposure isn't theoretical anymore." A beat, then, "It's active." The word moved through the room like a fracture. HR lowered her pen completely. Someone near the wall whispered something under their breath, and immediately stopped. The CEO didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at the keys. As if, somehow, looking long enough would simplify them. It didn't, because for the first time since the meeting started, control wasn't in the room anymore. It was somewhere else. And it wasn't waiting. If you felt that shift, the moment control quietly left the room, you already know this isn't just another office story. Subscribe now and stay close, because what happens next isn't loud, it's precise, and it changes everything in ways no one in that room is ready for. And tell me in the comments, at what exact moment did you realize something was wrong? The first key? Or the word distributed? You're closer to the truth than they were. The word active didn't echo, it absorbed. For a moment, no one moved, as if motion itself might trigger something irreversible. The room, designed for decisions, suddenly felt like a place where decisions had already been made, elsewhere. The CFO was the first to act, not abruptly, precisely. He opened a second dashboard, then a third. Facility overlays stacked across his screen, logistics corridors, access nodes, environmental controls. Each layer told a different version of the same story. None of them were comforting. "Zone B just flagged a synchronization fault," he said, voice low, analytical. "It's pulling from an offline authority." The CEO exhaled sharply. "Then bring it online." "It is online," the CFO replied. "That's the problem." A ripple of unease moved through the room. Someone near the glass checked their phone. No signal change, no alert, nothing visible, which made it worse, because whatever was happening wasn't announcing itself. It was propagating. The CEO stepped closer to the table, closer to the keys. His reflection fractured across the polished surface, 12 distortions of the same expression. "What does it need?" he asked, forcing control back into his voice. "Tell me what it needs, and we fix it." The CFO didn't answer immediately. He zoomed into a node cluster, Facility 3, then cross-referenced with a permissions ledger that hadn't been opened in years. "Continuity signatures," he said at last. "Sequential validation across independent layers." The CEO frowned. "In plain terms." The CFO's eyes didn't leave the screen. "It needs confirmation from every access point that the system is still whole." A beat. And it's not getting it. Now the room understood something fundamental. This wasn't a single failure. It was a system asking a question and not liking the answer. Across the table, she watched. Not with satisfaction, not with urgency, just attention, like someone observing a process they already knew by heart. The CEO turned to her again. "You built redundancy," he said, pushing for ground he could stand on. "Fine, that's good engineering. So we stabilize it. We reassign authority. You can't," she interrupted. Quietly, no emphasis, but it cut through the room with surgical clarity. He stopped. The interruption itself wasn't the shock. The certainty was. "Why not?" he demanded. She glanced at the keys, then back at him. "Because it doesn't recognize reassignment under stress." The CFO's head lifted, sharp, immediate. "Stress conditions?" he asked. She nodded once. Mismatch in authority signals triggers containment logic. The CFO swore under his breath, rare, controlled, but unmistakable. That's why it's distributing, he said, more to himself than to the room. It's isolating inconsistencies. Another notification. He didn't need to open it this time. He already knew the pattern. Facility 5 just locked a segment, he said. Partial isolation. Non-critical, but it won't stay non-critical, she finished. He looked at her, directly now, fully. How many layers? He asked. She considered the question, not for effect, but for accuracy. 12 active, she said. 4 passive. The number hung there. 12. Eyes drifted, unavoidably, to the table, to the keys. The CEO felt it too. That alignment between object and system, between something he could touch and something he couldn't control. You're saying those, he gestured abrupt, are linked to this? She didn't rush the answer. They represent it. Not the same. Worse, because representation meant abstraction, and abstraction meant the real thing was somewhere deeper, less visible, harder to reach. The CFO straightened. We need a revalidation sequence, he said. Manual, layer by layer. He hesitated, then added, with her. Silence snapped back into place. The CEO turned slowly. No, he said. Flat, immediate. Absolutely not. The CFO didn't flinch. Then you need someone who understands how the layers resolve conflicts under load. We have a team. The CEO shot back. They have documentation, the CFO corrected. She has the system. That distinction landed harder than anything before it. Documentation versus reality. Theory versus control. The CEO's jaw tightened. He looked at the keys again, then at her, then back to the CFO. How long before this escalates? He asked. The CFO checked the feed, calculating, projecting, narrowing probabilities into something actionable. Depends on convergence speed, he said, but based on current propagation. A pause, not for drama, for precision. We're already inside the window. Another notification lit the screen. This one didn't stack. It expanded. A full-width alert, clean, unambiguous. Facility integrity degraded. No one spoke, because now the system wasn't asking questions anymore. It was making decisions. The CEO's voice, when it came, was quieter than before. What does it do next? The CFO didn't answer. He looked at her. She didn't look away. It closes gaps, she said. A beat. Even if it has to create them first. That was the moment. Not loud, not visible, but definitive, because everyone in the room understood the implication at the same time. This wasn't a failure they could patch. It was a structure they had misunderstood. And it was still unfolding. The alert didn't disappear. It stayed. Static, unblinking. Facility integrity degraded. Not a warning anymore, a state. The CFO exhaled through his nose, slow, controlled, forcing the situation back into something he could process. Numbers, sequences, dependencies. Containment will cascade, he said. If integrity keeps dropping, the system isolates discrepancies one layer at a time. The CEO's patience snapped at the edges. Then stop it. A simple command. In a system that no longer responded to simple commands. No, the CFO said, sharper now. You don't stop this. You either validate continuity, or you get partitioned out of it. That phrasing landed hard. Partitioned, removed without noise. Across the table, her gaze shifted, finally to the keys again. Not counting them, not checking them, recognizing them. The CEO followed her line of sight. This is theater, he said, forcing a short laugh that didn't convince anyone. Keys on a table don't run facilities. No, she agreed. A beat. They represent the trust paths that do. The room tightened, because that was the missing piece, not access. Trust. The CFO's mind accelerated. Sequential validation, he said. It's not checking who you are. It's checking whether the chain still holds. He turned to the CEO. You broke the chain. The CEO's expression hardened instantly. I terminated an employee. You severed an authority node mid-cycle, the CFO corrected, during active load. Silence, not confusion anymore. Understanding, unwelcome, precise. Another notification hit. This time it came with a timestamp drift. Milliseconds out of sync. Then more. A cascade. Clock divergence, the CFO said. The layers aren't agreeing on sequence order. He looked up. Urgency now. Contained, but real. If that widens, validation fails completely. The CEO stepped back, just half a step. Instinct, not strategy. What does failure look like? He asked. The CFO didn't answer. He didn't need to, because everyone could feel it forming. Something large, quiet, and irreversible. She answered instead. Loss of continuity, she said. Another beat. Systems stopped trusting each other. The CEO's voice dropped. And then? She met his gaze. They stopped cooperating. That was worse than shutdown, because shutdown was clean. This wasn't. This was fragmentation. Across the room, someone whispered, "Can we reboot it?" No one reacted, because that question belonged to a different kind of system. The CFO was already moving, opening a secure console, initiating a manual sequence. His fingers hovered over the input field, then stopped. He turned to her. "What's the entry point?" he asked. Direct. No ego left in the question. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached forward. For the first time, her fingers touched the keys. Not all of them, just one, the smallest. She slid it forward, just a few centimeters, a quiet, deliberate motion. "That's layer 1, she said. The CFO nodded once. Understood. He began typing, a command sequence, manual, careful, structured around something older than the current system. Something foundational. The screen responded. For a moment, stability. The alert dimmed slightly. Not gone, but less. Absolute. The room exhaled. Too early. Another notification cut through, sharper than the rest. Validation. Mismatch. Layer 3. The CFO's jaw tightened. "It skipped," he said. "Sequence isn't aligning." She didn't look surprised. "It won't accept partials," she said. He looked at her again. "How many do we need active?" She didn't hesitate. "All of them." The words landed like a closed door. The CEO stepped forward again, frustration returning, but now edged with something else. "Then use them," he said. "You have them right there." A pause. Subtle. Critical. She looked at the full line of keys. 12. Aligned. Complete. Then back at him. "I don't," she said. The CEO blinked. "What?" She held his gaze. "I returned company property." Same words, different weight. The CFO understood first. His expression shifted. Not shock, not panic. Recognition. "You relinquished authority," he said. She nodded. Cleanly. Another alert. This one didn't expand. It split. 2 parallel warnings. Layer 4. Unverified layer 7. Unverified. The CFO closed his eyes for half a second. Calculating, recalculating. There was no shortcut, no override, only sequence, only trust, and the chain was broken. He opened his eyes, looked at the CEO. "We can't rebuild this from the outside," he said. A beat. "We need her inside the chain." Silence. The CEO didn't answer immediately, because for the first time since this started, the decision in front of him wasn't about authority. It was about admission, control, or recovery. And they were no longer the same thing. No one moved. The system didn't wait. Another alert unfolded across the CFO's screen. Clean, clinical, irreversible in tone. Sequence divergence. Escalating milliseconds stretched into something heavier. Not time. Pressure. The CEO looked at the keys again. 12 small objects. Manageable. Physical. The kind of problem he understood, but this wasn't physical anymore. This was structural. "What does it take?" he asked. Not loud, not commanding. For the first time. Accurate. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached forward again. This time, not to slide a key, to turn one. A subtle movement, almost invisible, but the CFO saw it. His screen flickered, just once. A single layer realigned. Layer 1 acknowledged, he said under his breath. The CEO froze. "You still have access," he said, sharp again, grasping at certainty. She shook her head. "No." A pause. "I have sequence memory." That distinction changed everything, because access could be revoked. Memory couldn't. Another alert. Layer 6. Isolation initiated. The CFO's voice cut in, faster now. "We're losing middle layers. If the chain splits, top-level authority won't reconcile." The CEO stepped closer. "Then fix it," he said. But the words had lost their weight. Because now everyone knew. Fixing required something he didn't control. The CFO didn't even look at him this time. He looked only at her. "We need a full revalidation," he said. Ordered, continuous, no breaks. She nodded once. "Yes." No hesitation, no negotiation, just confirmation. The CEO exhaled, short, contained, the kind of breath someone takes right before conceding something they never expected to. "Do it," he said. 2 words, but they cost him more than the entire meeting. She didn't move immediately. Instead, she looked at the table, at the keys, at the order, at the system they represented. Then she spoke, calm, precise. "I don't pick them up." The CEO frowned. "What?" She met his eyes. "I don't re-enter the chain by taking control." A beat. "I re-enter when the chain recognizes continuity." The CFO understood instantly. "Sequential acknowledgement," he said. "We don't restore authority, we confirm it." She nodded. "Exactly." The room shifted again. Subtly, fundamentally. Because the solution wasn't power, it was alignment. She placed her hand near the first key again, not touching it this time. "Layer 1, she said. The CFO executed. A pause. Layer 2. Another command. This time, the system responded faster, cleaner, as if recognizing something familiar. Validation confirmed a small line on the screen. But it changed the trajectory. The CEO watched, silent now, not leading, observing. For the first time, he wasn't ahead of the system. He was behind it. "Layer 3, she continued. The CFO followed. No hesitation now, no doubt. Another confirmation, then another. The alerts didn't disappear. They narrowed, focused, from chaos into sequence. By layer 5, the room was different, still tense, but structured, like a system rebuilding itself from within. Then, a pause, longer than the others. The CFO's fingers hovered. "This is where it broke," he said. "Layer 6, isolation, the fracture point." He looked at her. She didn't rush it, didn't force it. Just stood there, calm, precise, exactly as she had been from the beginning. "Continue," she said. No emphasis, no reassurance, just direction. He executed. For a fraction of a second, nothing. Then the screen shifted. Not an alert, a reconciliation. Layer 6, reintegrated. The CFO exhaled, sharp, contained. "We're back in sequence." From there, it accelerated. 7, 8, 9, each layer confirming faster than the last, like a system remembering itself. Until layer 12, the final node, the last key. The CFO stopped, not from uncertainty, from awareness. This wasn't just another step. This was closure. He looked at her. She didn't nod, didn't signal. She didn't need to. He executed a beat. Silence. Then the alert collapsed, clean, complete, facility integrity restored. No sound followed, no applause, just the absence of pressure, the kind that feels almost unreal when it's gone. The CFO leaned back slowly. "It's stable," he said. Quiet. Definitive. Across the table, the CEO didn't speak. Not immediately. He looked at the keys, still aligned, still untouched, then at her. Different now, measured. "What happens now?" he asked. Not command, not challenge. A question. She closed her bag, the same calm movement as before. Nothing rushed, nothing wasted. Now, she said, it remembers who kept it running. A beat. Then she added, soft, precise. And who didn't? No one responded, because there was nothing to add. The system was stable, the room wasn't, and that difference would last much longer.